Nazi Germany, the Roman Empire, and corporate America. What do they all have in common? Spirit's been showing me a lot of themes mirrored back to me through synchronicity, showing up in my reality over the past couple of weeks regarding these themes. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around the message because it's big, it's wide, and it's happening now. It's also been happening over the course of history. So it's nothing new, and yet we're kind of like in a new stage of it. Think late stage capitalism. So they've been showing me a lot of stuff to do with the office space, corporate jobs, slavery, and consumerism. And how this relates to the crushing of the soul, or actually more so the crushing of the spirit. And how spirit showed it to me previously was that the spirit is the house of the soul. And when the spirit gets crushed, the soul gets crushed because the soul is inside the house. They've been showing me themes about how the illusion of free will shows up in some of these areas of life. So where we are enforcing slavery upon ourselves as consumers, and where this has been done in the past in regard to compliance. Say, for example, Nazis who were gassing people in chambers when they were being told to do so, but didn't 100% believe in what they were doing or feel good about what they were doing. They were following orders. They've also been showing me references to the Milgram experiments and the Stanford prison experiments, which kind of have similar, if not more expansive themes around these topics. So something about this theme of self-enforced slavery, and where we have the illusion of free will and yet we remain trapped because, first of all, we're not aware that we're trapped, and second of all, we are self-enforcing and even enforcing this on others because of this very entrenched illusion of control. So they've been showing me stuff to do with the ruling class versus the working class. They've been showing me themes about divide and conquer, and how consumerism can be a model of divide and conquer because it gets people to be constantly competing against each other, and also in a fight or flight survival response, needing to constantly sell their time, put everything else to the side so that they can make a living or pay off debt or keep up with the Joneses, the lack of fulfillment in the rat race, etc. And I think this is where this materialism sort of panopticon comes in, where it's this self-regulating system, self-monitoring, in the sense that we're all constantly aware of what is expected of us, whether it's our appearance or social capital in terms of our work. Often it's the first thing we ask other people, what do you do for work? Because it's the most important thing. And this kind of goes into where we are oppressing ourselves, but also makes us kind of look at and question who is gaining from this. You know, it's like follow the money. Who is gaining from this social capital model of self-enforced slavery? Who is gaining from capitalism? Because it's certainly not the earth, and it's certainly not humans in general as a species. Definitely not. And there's two types of evil. There's people who do evil things, and there's people who see evil things being done and do nothing. Why do we lack this social responsibility? Possibly because we don't have the community that we once had or that we crave, and we sometimes deny ourselves for the purpose of work. The true authentic connection that humans crave, it's part of our nature, is lacking fundamentally in an independent, nuclear family, capitalistic society. And yet nobody wants to challenge the status quo. Nobody really wants to stand up and say no or to revolt, because to do so would call everything else into question, first of all, and second of all, it would threaten individual security. And so we go into this survival response of, well, I can't say no because then I'll lose my resources. But we outnumber them 1,000,000 to 1. That's why they call them the 1%. But people won't revolt until their comfort and their security are stripped from them. And until they see and recognize the plan that's been going on this entire time. I've been seeing themes to do with socialism and how this works, and also references to social work as well. Caregivers and support, mutual support, and how community helps us to be inspired to want to give, to want to volunteer, to want to care for, to want to do work that is meaningful and purposeful and other oriented, not for money, but because we are satiating that deeper desire for connection and the maintenance of that community, which is the true source of stability and security. We've known this since forever. It's kind of, again, it's in our DNA. It's been driven out of our culture, but it's in our DNA still. And at the soul level, this is something that we desire, but more so, it's something that we need to thrive. As a species and as an individual, it's kind of the same thing. Because we're not thriving individually, and we're certainly not thriving as a species. We're on the brink of extinction, global events, meta crisis, AI, destruction timelines, all of that. And the negative agenda running individuals, we can call them whatever, the enforcers, we can call them the 1%ers, we can call them the NAA, we can call them the Illuminati, we can call them by whatever name is most relevant, but none are actually that relevant in all things considered, because we're still participating in that. We're still allowing that subversive action to be the protocols by which we live our lives. It's become internalized. This type of just following orders and this internalization of this deep fear for the survival needs not being met, or even being put to death, if we're talking about Nazi Germany, to defect was basically a death sentence. And even in modern America, to dissent in some ways can lead indirectly to death. Lack of healthcare, not having a roof over the head, substance abuse, mental health issues, suicide, or should I say, unaliving. This is all shades of 1984. Science fiction often becomes fact. Why? Was it prophecy? No, not necessarily. Maybe a self-fulfilling one. I've also been seeing references to Back to the Future. So again, being able to go back to the past, having known what the future becomes and altering that to create an alternate timeline. A different opportunity for humanity to thrive, avoiding the cataclysm and the repetition of previous falls of major enlightened societies, Atlantis, Lemuria, etc., Mars, Maldek, Tiamat. The list goes on. The galactic wars, all of this is connected to what is happening here on Earth, very much directly connected, if not the cause of what is going on here. So we've got this illusion of free will. We've got this toxic work slavery mentality, but it's so ingrained that it's not even necessarily conscious for most of the population. And then we have self-enforced and socially enforced guilt or shame around not having gratitude for these soul-crushing jobs that pay the rent or the bills or keep food on the table or provide for your family. And so there's this mentality of like, you can't complain about it, because if you do, then you're not grateful for the fact that you have a job. But how can you be grateful for something that is actively killing you, in a sense? None of this makes any sense at all. And a mark of sanity in an insane society is the blasphemy of truth, isn't it? Being willing to say these things is not unheard of. People are talking about this. I'm certainly not the only one. In fact, the people that I've been shown as references for this, to inspire this topic, to bring this to mind, and to explore the spiritual themes of it have already dove deeper than I have. This is very surface level for me still, but Spirit's directing me to this for a reason and wants me and us, because I'm here to share, what I'm seeing and receiving and being taught about this type of dysfunction at a global mass level. So to break the spell of illusion here and to resist the insanity, we really have to be aware of what it's doing to us, where we're sacrificing things that should not and cannot be sacrificed, and to understand what our motivations are behind that, where those motivations came from, who put them there, and how that makes the people who put them there money. And it's not even just about the money, it's energy harvesting, mental slavery in more than one way. And how this culminates in the extraction of resources, spiritual resources, energetic resources, DNA resources, financial resources, earth resources, and the fall of consciousness, literacy, awareness, spiritual integrity, personal power, freedom. So these are really important topics to open up about, share, talk, discuss, think about. Because if we don't look at it and we just keep sweeping it under the rug, or we keep letting the thought cross our mind but then not doing anything about it, not actively trying to educate ourselves on what alternatives could be, or allow ourselves to break that consumptive curse, then we're going to be stuck in it. And this is not the time for being stuck. This is the time for radical change. We're at a pivot point, collectively, globally. The alternate timeline is created. It's being created and it's being actively propelled forward. But we have to manifest that not only through the awareness, but the application of the awareness. What are we going to do with that? Radical chains broken. Radical change undertaken. Radical benefits as a result. But there's necessary upheaval that comes along with that, because to change something that is fundamentally broken, that does not want to change because it's a self-serving, functioning dysfunction. It's a functioning dysfunctional system. But that bubble has got to pop, and some level of destruction needs to occur so that the reconstruction of the alternative can take place. There's got to be way showers for that. There's got to be influencers who are doing this. There's got to be people who are putting their money where their mouth is, who are making changes, who are providing resources for this change to occur. And I'm talking about on all levels, mentally, physically, spiritually, socially, culturally, financially. All of these resources need to be made available. And how do we do that? Through connection, through authentic connection, through community, through the awareness of ourselves as one whole. To subvert the subversion, we need to understand the diversive tactics that have been used against us, not just to split us from each other, but to split ourselves from ourselves, to split literally our souls. So this is where change and radical action need to occur. And it occurs in many different ways, and there's many different, I'm hearing the word truth pilots. There's many different truth pilots that are actively in service and on duty as we speak. So what does that look like? People funding grassroots movements, people doing research, people creating communities, people funding and creating alternative systems, people embodying the truth of what their soul and spirit is intuitively guiding them to do, people coming together, people healing, mental health awareness, psychological and spiritual health are not that separate. So the awareness of it is that first leap or bound into the act of healing. So we've got the change starting to manifest. I mean, it's not even just starting, it's been there for a while, but we're starting to actually see some change. But the illusion is that nothing is changing and that we are stuck in this paradigm that is just worsening. But it's kind of like a healing crisis where it does get worse before it gets better. Now, what they were also showing me was references to what the alternative could be to this overworked, exhausted, soul-crushed society bred to be consumers, users, in every sense of that word. And I've known in my heart, and Spirit has guided me to this awareness, to this wisdom, to this knowledge, that it's really about play. It's really about love. It's really about compassion, and community is a big part of that, as they've been sharing and as I've been speaking on here. But the question was always, well, who's going to clean up garbage? Who's going to clean the toilets? Who's going to do the things that nobody wants to do? And if nobody had to work, would anybody be genuinely enthused to do work? And I think for a period of time, and some people would not want to work, and that's fine, but it's in our nature to want purposeful action, whether it's creative expression, whether it's community care, whether it's self-care, whether it is something that just makes us feel good about what we're doing and why we're doing it. This is human nature. It's the soul's nature to want to give. It's the soul's nature to want to do, to experience, to connect, to create, to evolve. So I don't think that we're giving ourselves or humanity as much credit as we actually deserve. And the answer that I'd been asking myself for a long time finally came in a video that was talking about work. And how if we didn't have to work as slaves for money to feed ourselves and keep a roof over our head, that people would be incentivized to do the gritty, shitty work if, and here's the big kicker here, if we had a sense of community. One of the oldest acts of compassion that we see is cavemen who had broken bones that were knitted back together. This indicates that our ancestors didn't just give up on someone when they were injured, cast them to the side because they were a nuisance or a burden, but that even when it was inconvenient, they were still willing to give resources and support and care and nurturing, and to take time out of their busy schedule of surviving in a much rougher environment because of love. So yeah, I think that people would be self-motivated, intrinsically motivated to do those nitty-gritty jobs, because in a culture, in a society that is more tribally or communally focused, we want to give back. It feels good to give back. It feels gratifying to get your hands dirty sometimes in support of other people's needs. But that's not what this consumer society teaches. This is not what capitalism trains us to do. It trains us to be individualistic. It separates us. It divides us. It causes us to become selfish, self-gratifying, service to self-oriented. And service to self at a soul level is a split. It is a split from the core self, the God self, the unity. It is in that separation from the self that the self then goes out and causes damage and extracts from everything and everyone around to sustain itself, simply because it has become, through its own actions, disconnected from its true resource. So it's like closing the floodgate and then going around and taking or asking for water from everyone else. either by force or through coercion or through dependency. Now, there's nothing wrong with symbiosis and interdependence, but it's when it smashes into the other side of it, when it becomes either coercion, manipulation, downright evil, immoral acts to get that self-sustaining life force, or it becomes this very dysfunctional, toxic, codependent type of dynamic. Either way, the influence is the internal separation from the God self. And this is a driving, motivating factor. It's part of the influence of those who control these types of structures and why it benefits them to do so. So the dissolution of those symptoms or systems, I meant to say systems, but symptoms, is to correlate them with the need for action in terms of our own sovereignty, our own freedom, our own God-given right and resource to energetically sustain ourselves through the Godhead, through the unity. It's an active and open heart chakra. It's an activated higher heart chakra. It's a fully strengthened and protected, grounded and stabilized light body. Because the spirit is strong in that regard, in that form. And who does that serve? All of us. And who does it serve to have a broken light body, a dysfunctional heart chakra, a broken or distorted higher heart principle? Those who need energy from sovereign beings who are not meant to have it taken from them. So I think the call to action here from Spirit is to explore our motivations, to get curious about what is causing certain internalized self-restriction, and where we can learn to regulate that so that we can take greater risks, socially speaking, to embody our truth, which is really not a risk at the soul level. It's very empowering, it's very freeing, it expands, it removes the pressure from the soul and allows us to really thrive internally, which creates that externally. And yet we've been riddled with doubt and fear and psychically and socially and materially molested over and over and over again to split ourselves from ourselves. So this is a really dynamic topic that we need to discuss, and this is why I'm doing it today. This is not a reading per se. It is, because it's coming from Spirit, but it's not the traditional type of reading. It's more of a discussion, because it needs to happen. We need to talk about this. We need to deepen our understanding of what's happening here so that we can break the cycle, so that we can no longer submit our free will and our personal power to the hands of those who misuse it, chronically misuse it, and abuse it. Prototypes for new future will be born, are already being birthed in the minds of creative individuals, maybe such as yourself. So keep yourself open to solutions that present to you. Follow your intuition, develop your intuition if you haven't already, and begin to follow that path through trust and self-development. Because even though it may seem like it's not going to solve the issue on the outside issues feel so big, so gargantuan. It's like David and Goliath. How are we possibly going to take down these slave masters? Well, we start by empowering ourselves. We start by embodying divine freedom. We start by trusting our intuition and healing the relationship, the schisms, the splits in the psyche and in the soul. We start by empowering and charging up our light body. This increases our protection and allows us to raise our frequency, which shifts the timeline, the mentality, and therefore the actions that we take and what we create out of that. So take back your power. Rise up. It's time. This is long overdue. We've been waiting. Our souls have been waiting in a state of despair, crying out for this necessary dominion over ourselves once more. We need this freedom, and we're going to take it back. What was lost will once again be found, and it starts from within. So let's get it together and let's work together to make this a reality. Literally. I love you guys. I hope this message was helpful for you on your spiritual enlightenment journey. I hope that it is supportive of the collective ascension and these new models that we're creating for society, even if it starts out at a subcultural level or an internal or interpersonal level. Individually, we must remove the mask. So I hope this helps to do it. Thank you guys for being here on the channel. No extended today because this was just kind of like a direct discussion type message, not a reading, but I will come back and do more of like an open channel reading for the collective, and maybe it has to do with this, maybe not. We'll just let spirit do what they want to do. And I'll do an extended for that when we get there. So thank you to the members who are here on the channel getting the extended readings. Thank you for supporting my work here. Helps to feed me and pay my bills. Maybe not fully, but we're getting there. So thank you. All right, we'll see you in the next reading. Bye.